Hey, y'all, and welcome to episode 1 of the Unveiling STEM Careers That Inspire series. I'm Sandra D. I'm the community psych librarian, and I'm excited to have various STEM professionals here to share their journeys in hopes of inspiring students to consider the excitement and possibilities of STEM-related educational programs and careers. Today, we welcome Debbie, the Deputy Director for the NNLM Region 3, a regional office funded by the National Institutes of Health and National Library of Medicine that operates from the UNC Health Science Center. She worked previously as an Epidemiology Research Analyst, an LRC Manager at a school for nurses, a high school chemistry teacher, and a chemistry lab intern. Debbie holds a Master of Science in Information Science with a Health Informatics Specialization from UNT and a bachelor's degree in chemistry from SMU. She has been published in scientific cardiovascular journals, and she serves as a NASA Solar System Ambassador, a nationwide engagement program of expert volunteers selected by NASA JPL. Debbie, we are so excited to have you here, and we can't wait to hear about your journey. Please take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Debbie Montenegro, and I'm excited to share my journey in science with you today. But first, 3 quick fun facts about me are that I've gone cave spelunking and I've also hiked volcanoes. This is a picture of me cave spelunking. I also really love to read, especially science fiction. So one of the things I do is that I am part of this special program. It's called the NASA Solar System Ambassador, or SSA program. It is a nationwide public engagement program run by the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which is also known as NASA JPL. And I applied to the program in 2018. I submitted my resume, gave several references, answered questions about what my project ideas were, and I was selected to be an SSA by NASA JPL, and I began in January of 2019. That was the best year to start as an SSA because that was also the year of the 50th anniversary of the NASA moon landing with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. So there were so many events that year to celebrate the anniversary. And I've been able to give presentations at professional conferences and public libraries. I've presented at conferences at both the Kennedy and Houston Space Centers, which was just absolutely amazing. And I've been a judge for science competitions hosted by NASA. So I've gotten to score applications for the NASA CEAS internship program, as well as the K-12 Power to Explore writing competition, and also several of the NASA Astrophoto challenges. I love seeing and reading what K-12 students submit. It really reminds me of the passion that I had when I was younger and also now, and it's been great. And our mission is that the NASA Solar System Ambassadors Program works with expert volunteers across the nation to share the latest science and discoveries of NASA space exploration missions through a variety of inspirational events. And so you're welcome to check out our event calendar to see what events are happening near you. I am also part of the Civil Air Patrol as an aerospace education member, or a CAPAEM. I act as an ambassador for the program. So CAP is a public service organization that carries out emergency service missions when needed in the air and on the ground. So CAP has a whole cadet program for students. So this is where y'all come in. You can join your local squadron, and they have all sorts of activities and camps. You can even learn how to fly a plane. I wish I knew about this when I was younger. My cousins, actually, who are much younger than myself, were in CAP recently, and they really enjoyed it. So we'll have a link below for students to find out more information about being a CAP cadet. CAP really wants to help students become aerospace leaders, and they take students from ages 12 through 18. There are also CAP resources for educators, like the once-a-year teacher orientation program flights, and also print resources for teachers. I have to say, my most memorable CAP moment was the top flight at the Space Kennedy Center, where a pilot took us over on a flyover of the space shuttle landing strip. So this is like the area where the space shuttles have landed in the past. So it was truly special, and it was easily one of the most fantastic experiences that I've ever had in my life. Our CAP pilot was so great and such an advocate for aviation, and I could tell that he truly enjoyed the gift of flight, and he made our flight experience so exciting. I will never forget seeing Kennedy Space Center and the SpaceX Starship from above. And as educators and as ambassadors, it helps us to be passionate in order to help share that with others. And so the top flights from CAP really do help with that. All right, this is a quick glance at the highlights of what I do at my full-time day job as a deputy director for a grant-funded office. We received a grant from NLM NIH, which is the National Library of Medicine at the National Institutes of Health. And we created this office that conducts outreach training and provides grants to a 7-state region. All of it is related to health information. So every day is different, but basically we help people at both a regional and a national level to get health information resources and better understand those resources. We also award out competitive grants to organizations, and we work with these groups on projects that really vary from data science and AI to rural health and farm worker health. We cover a 7-state region and health needs are plenty. And we have to keep in mind things like we have a really urban and a really rural population. We serve all of these populations and they all have some different needs. So how do we do that? So just a quick overview of some of these highlights. I help to implement administrative plans, goals, and objectives. I supervise grants, which means working with people in other organizations in all of these other states because they really know what it's like to help people in their local areas. And so it helps me to know how can we help people in different areas across the nation. I help to review grant applications. I help with the funding administration, which basically means keeping an eye on the budget constantly. I also interface with other offices that we have to work with. So that means, perhaps talking to the grants office or talking to the IRB office or other different offices that we have to be able to get our contracts through for these projects. I also manage and support staff to implement health information outreach programs. I work with staff to gather data. We do a lot of evaluation, assessment, and reporting. I also help to conduct different trainings. And we also take part in national committees and national initiatives. Everyone on my team is, taking part in some national committee or national initiative. I also help in individual projects. There might be data science projects or AI projects. One of the biggest things that we do is collaborate with partners. So we collaborate with community organizations, libraries, science educators, health science groups, researchers. It really kind of runs the gamut of who we work with, as long as it has something to do with health information. All right, so my career path so far, my journey has definitely not been a linear one, and that's okay. Each experience has actually taught me something valuable, which I couldn't actually see when I went into it. But in retrospect, as you look back, I realized that everything actually went to the next step. So I've always had a love for science. And as I got older, I realized that the science field is so much broader than I had initially known. There were jobs I wish I'd known about earlier. As a child, I was told, oh, you should be a doctor, nurse, or lawyer, because those are the jobs that people hear about all the time. But as I moved along, I realized there are a lot of different science jobs. There's biology, chemistry, physics, geology, medicine, and so on as fields. And so take just chemistry, for example, as a field, right? You can work in a lab as a chemist. You can be a professor of chemistry, but you can also work as a food chemist. They create foodstuffs like flavorings. You can also work as a cosmetic chemist. So if you really like makeup and perfumes, there are chemists who actually specifically create perfumes and makeup. And skincare. Recently, I just rediscovered astrochemistry, which is a study of elements that make up the universe. And I find that so fascinating. Part of me actually wants to go back to school just to do astrochemistry. So you can also become a chemical engineer or go into biochemistry or medicine. There are soil scientists who help farmers learn about their soil. There's water chemists who help keep our water, the water that we drink, clean and pure for us to be able to drink. So there's so many different ways you can go just with chemistry. And that's the thing, I'm still learning about new jobs to this day. So as for me, I got my bachelor's degree in chemistry and a teaching certificate in chemistry. I also then taught chemistry. And one thing I learned is that it really helps you to solidify and learn something when you have to teach it to others, whether it's tutoring or whether it's professional teaching. You really have to learn the material really well. And about that time, we had the great economic recession of 2008. And so I decided to go back to school to get my Master of Science degree, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. And I worked at a public library while I was in grad school. After graduation, I landed a job as a learning resource center manager for a school for nurses. And that was great. I got to work with nurses. I got to learn what living in their life is kind of like, especially as students. Then I wanted to move more into research. So I went to work at a department of epidemiology in the healthcare system. I started as an intern and I moved up to become a research analyst for heart surgery research. I learned so much about the heart. I learned so much about heart surgeries. And it was just a really fascinating position to be in. I will say that career switch was a little bit hard for me because it required going from being a manager to an intern again to switch career paths. And it was a bit of a humbling experience at first, but in the end, to me, it was worth it because I was able to move into becoming a researcher, and I became a co-author in a couple of publications in medical journals, specifically with heart surgery research. So to me, that was a really, really cool move to be able to say that I've done that. And then after a couple of years, I moved to the office where I am now. And first, I started off as the consumer health coordinator because I really wanted to help get health information out to people in a way that they can understand. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then I was promoted to the deputy director in early 2020, which is what I do now. And all these steps took about 17 years, but I still have a lot ahead of me, and I still have a lot that I want to do. So as far as my educational journey, I've already mentioned some of these, but just to see it in a more linear fashion, I have listed here. I have double majors. I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry and separately religious studies from SMU. I found both subjects to be very fascinating at the time, and I just decided I would discover and explore both. Then I also have a master's of science in information science with the Health Informatics Specialization from UNT, as Sandra had mentioned before. I also completed a chemistry teacher certification program through a community college. And so I had to prove that I knew the subject matter in order to be able to teach it. And so that was fairly simple for me because I had majored in chemistry. So that was a really great experience. But I got to learn about other things about running a classroom. So I still take professional development courses, which are classes meant for professionals. So this is no longer college, but this is, professional development training courses where, if you're in a specific career, you can learn more about that career or skills for that career. So for the past year, I've actually been taking a lot of courses on generative AI, 101s, what is it, how can we use it? So really no one has ever done learning new things, especially if you want to stay relevant. So there's always this aspect of continuously learning. And thankfully, I actually really love to continue to learn. But also there are different paths for you to take. So as a student, you have opportunities like internships, and then there's fellowships where people can really learn, hands-on. When you go to college, a lot of engineering majors will have a lot of co-op internships that they can do. So they really get to learn hands-on, which I think is really great. There are also trade schools and colleges. So there's just a lot of variety out there to pursue. So don't think that you're pigeonholed into any singular thing. All right, so journey to deputy director, we're almost there. On becoming a director, I'll just briefly say that I had a love for all things science and science fiction when I was little. So really for me, it was more honing it in. But as I get older, I realized that, a lot of science doesn't really need to be siloed. A lot of it actually speaks to each other. So I worked hard and I accumulated several different job opportunities. I continuously learn. My recommendation to you is to search different job titles and information and see what interests you. You can go to the library, your school library or your public library, and I bet you they will have career books and books that are dictionaries of careers where you can discover what different kinds of jobs are out there. There are also like different kinds of work personality kind of surveys that you can do, so it can kind of guide you into generally what kind of jobs you might be really good at. So of course, those aren't indicative of what all you can do, but it might just be a help to guide you. Speaking of tools, here's a tool for you. There's a Japanese concept called ikigai, which means a reason for being. So as you can see from this chart, there are varying degrees that can make up what you do. There's what you love to do, what the world needs people to do, what you are good at, and what you can be paid for. So the combinations you have can reveal if you're in a profession, a vocation, a mission, or if you're pursuing a passion. And it can be a combination of those, right? So I picked my current profession and vocation because this job required all the skills from my previous jobs that I previously had. Teaching science, researching, helping people find health information resources, being able to speak to the public, working with students and educators, and also medical researchers. This was a good fit for me because I had been in each one of these jobs myself at some point. So it made it easier for me to be able to talk to these different groups of people because I had done their job before. I was also intrigued by the community aspect, and I always had an idea of having a career that was in service to others and just trying to understand people where they are and meeting them where they're at. So even when I got to be promoted to be a director, I took what is called a servant leader approach, which means that I view my job as one where I work for the communities that we serve and I work for my staff, not the other way around. And I view that as a difference between being a boss and being a leader. A boss might prioritize other things, and that's fine. But as a leader, I say, how can we work together? How can I support you to achieve your goals and the office goals? So basically, I picked this job because it combines previous job experiences, which would be the what you're good at part in the Venn diagram. I have a desire to help and educate others, which is part of the what the world needs diagram, because we definitely need people who are willing to teach others. Otherwise, we won't have that base of knowledge moving forward. And then outreach and community service that is funded through this grant. So that's a combination of what the world needs and what you can be paid for. So I've enjoyed working in the health sciences. I would actually love to pursue my passion of space science further and take my skills to go work directly in the space industry someday, perhaps in space health or like space health science grants, something that where I can take all the skills that I have and move it forward into that space. So that's what I would love to do next. Because adults have dreams too. And then final thoughts. Science is full of endless possibilities. Keep exploring and find what you like, find what you're passionate about, find what you're good at. So that is my recommendation. Thank you so much for your time and listening to this. I hope it helps to hear about these STEM journeys in order to form your own paths. Here's my contact information, and thank you to Sandra for hosting me and to the teacher of this classroom for allowing us to take up a little bit of your class time.
Oh, thank you, Debbie, for sharing your amazing, inspiring journey to becoming the Deputy Director for the NNLM and, of course, as a NASA Solar System Ambassador. I have so many questions. You gave us so much great information. And so I do want to touch back, though, on AI. Of course, it's a big topic now. It's a big buzzword. And you did say that you were the person that was tasked with that on your team. So I was wondering, do you have any advice for the students about using AI?
Yes. So a little tidbit. The other day I was listening to a podcast. I've been listening to podcasts about AI and what the news is and what's coming. And there were these high school seniors who were being interviewed by another podcast host. And these seniors actually have their own podcast where they talk about AI and they teach other students how to use AI, which is like, how cool is that? And so they were asked by the host about, what concerns they may have. And interestingly, they said that they were really fortunate because they got to learn in school, the previous way before AI came out. So during their freshman and sophomore years, they got to learn, what was normal before the AI came out. And so now that AI is out, they've gotten to learn about that too. But they realized their concern was that if a student now has an education solely, using AI technology to do a lot of their legwork, that those students might lose that brain muscle that does all the critical thinking. And so based on that, I would say, yes, let's use this technology and learn about it, but also don't let it take the place of your own critical thinking abilities, because we all need those skills for life in general.
Yes. Oh, what a wonderful way to leave us off, Debbie. And I'm sure people have other questions. So, folks, if y'all do have any other questions for Debbie, want to learn more about AI, learn about all the cool things that have gotten her to where she is today, don't hesitate to reach out to her or I. We're always happy to, answer any questions. I can always connect you with her if you missed her information in the slide. And of course, lastly, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Debbie, for joining us. If y'all can just remember to subscribe to the Community Psych Librarian YouTube channel so you'll get notifications every time we upload another inspiring story. That it was so wonderful to have y'all join us and for having Debbie here. So until next time, y'all be well. And thanks again, Debbie, for joining us.
Thank you.